Northern in the white wasn't overwhelmed by the English club, going on the attack early, only to be ruled offside. Damien Smith hauled in a strategic lob and overcame what looked like an attempted coat hanger to put Northern in front. Then it was up to Northern goalkeeper Peter Oberhauser to keep his side in front, athletically deflecting any attempts that went his way. As part of the victorious New South Wales Sheffield Shield side, Gavin Robertson only had one more cricket goal to achieve, to represent his country. But even he seemed shocked by the realisation of that dream.
I've driven up to my place and my wife sort of ran out and said, you're in the Australian side. And I actually didn't even know there was a side being picked.
The 27-year-old bowler hasn't had time to dwell on his promotion, today helping the Hunters' best young cricketers at a clinic at Myuna Bay. But his thoughts are already firmly fixed on the challenge ahead. The off-spinner is confident he'll do well in Pakistan, having been successful in similar conditions in India as part of the Australian under-19 side in the early 80s. Robertson's confidence has been further boosted with his state captain and friend now in charge of the Australian team.
Mark doesn't really like games to die out, and he wants them. He looks for a win anyway, so that's got to be good for cricket.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The first signs of danger were noticed by workmen carrying out part of the $2 million expansion of Australian Poultry's, formerly Steggall's, food processing plant. Fire units and police were alerted when ammonia fumes were smelt and soon detected leaking from a valve. The plant had earlier been shut down, the incident occurring during the power-up stage. The area was sealed off. Newcastle's breathing apparatus unit called in to control the situation. Nearby residents were warned to prepare for a possible evacuation, but this was averted when strong winds helped to disperse the gas. Today, the company would not comment about the matter on camera, but did confirm around 300 kilograms of the toxic gas had escaped. Ammonia gas is considered dangerous, exposure to fumes leading to severe nausea, skin burns and eye irritations. Investigation officers from WorkCover were carrying out interviews at the plant today, but were unable to comment pending possible legal action. Melinda Smith, NBN News. According to the latest national figures, every day 3 service stations are the targets of crime. In the Newcastle area alone, there's been a recent spate, 3 armed hold-ups in just over a week. The Service Station Association says there's a push to get the situation under control. Next month, it's launching a national database to register crimes such as break-and-enters and robberies. But by the end of the year, it plans to introduce a national security policy to improve protection standards. Service station owners will be encouraged to install high-tech safes and locks. Security cameras will be mandatory. The association says it's a multi-million-dollar exercise. It's calling on oil companies to help foot the bill. In New South Wales, there are around 2,800 service stations. While the lack of security can prove costly, in the event of an armed hold-up, there's another price to pay for the attendant on duty.
Well, I think it can be traumatic, not only because there are physical implications, because the absolute fear of dying, but also the psychological effects that occur later.
Roger Peters says those effects can be felt years later and believes it's the responsibility of operators to help their employees.
I really think that the first ownership should be amongst the service station or the petrol companies themselves to in fact make sure that there's something in place to mitigate against the negative effects of these incidents.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. Since relying on raffles to help finance its first stage 13 years ago, Harbourside Haven at Shoal Bay has gone from strength to strength. The village specialises in self-care villas and hostel units as well as nursing home care. And demand has resulted in plans for another complex, a $20 million retirement village proposed for Fingal Bay. Harbourside Haven is regularly toured by overseas visitors. The Japanese were so impressed, the facility was featured in a recent publication on aged care worldwide. Traditionally, Asians have relied on extended families to look after the elderly and frail, but times are changing.
With the onset of the Western civilisation where mum and dad both work, there's no one to care for the aged people anymore, so they have to go into the retirement village situation.
By the year 2000, it's estimated there'll be around 200 million people over the age of 60 in Asia. Harbourside Haven is leading the way, offering its expertise as a consultant.
We're prepared to offer this in the Asian and Pacific region so that any country, any organisation similar to our own, non-profit, that wants to set up care for the aged, accommodation and care, we'll help them as much as we can.
For members of Williamtown's 77 Squadron, it's a once-a-year fling with live weapons, and the first time ground and air crews have used laser-guided bombs. Smart bomb technology was used in the Gulf War. A special guidance system on board the aircraft flies the bombs to their target. In this case, it's a base built above and below ground by Army engineers. The impact is devastating on the underground bunker. Observers measure the effects on the ground. The exercise continues until the end of the week when 77 Squadron flies to Rockhampton for more training.
It's taken 2.5 years to complete. Today it was officially opened by the member for Myall Lakes, John Turner, and Greater Taree City Council Mayor Ralph Metcalfe. The section at Rainbow Flat, just south of Taree, features 6.5 kilometres of 4-lane divided carriageway. Increased safety for motorists will be a major benefit. In the past 5 years, this stretch of road has claimed 4 lives.
The most important one, of course, is road safety. We've got a 4-lane divided carriageway now, which makes the road safety aspect so much better. There's been a number of accidents in this section of road, which was poorly aligned, but now with the new work, this new deviation, we are now seeing a safer road.
Costing around $19 million, the Rainbow Flat deviation is part of the ongoing upgrade of the Pacific Highway.
Also, it fits into the 4-lane divided carriageway that we've already put in south of here, and will link in with the Taree bypass, which I recently announced tenders for the second phase of that, and we hope that will be finished in about 1997, 1998.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
As Alfred Maltman was paying for some beer at the Grange bottle shop in August last year, a man armed with a double-barrelled shotgun entered the shop, grabbing the attendant, 62-year-old Bud Morton. In Newcastle's Supreme Court today, Alfred Maltman identified the gunman as 23-year-old Patrick Michael Mills. He said the whole incident happened very quickly. Maltman says the gunman spun Bud Morton around to face the register. He said, "I want your money and I want it effing now." Bud Morton was then pushed backwards by the gunman and shot. Maltman says he immediately hit the floor and scrambled to the back of the bottle shop. Another customer, Alfred Poocher, had heard raised voices and a gunshot. Unaware the attendant had been killed, he approached the gunman, but backed off when he saw the weapon. Mr. Poocher watched the gunman steal the till and place it on the back seat of a waiting car. Later that night, the burnt-out car and till were found dumped in bushland at Gosford. Patrick Mills from Tumbiumbi has pleaded not guilty to murder. The trial will continue tomorrow. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
This little beauty could be a winner in the world titles of Odyssey of the Mind, an international scheme aimed at producing the next generation of problem solvers. On Sunday, these Year 9 and 10 students will head off to the USA to compete with teams from around the world. Their mission? To design and build a vehicle good enough to survive a challenging obstacle course. The team was given an official send-off by its school today, Lake Macquarie's Mayor John Kilpatrick presenting a $500 cheque to help with expenses.
Well, we think we'll do pretty well. Just go over there and enjoy ourselves, but we reckon we'll rate pretty well.
Meanwhile, 12-year-old Crystal Delaforce is diving her way into the record books. The Cardiff South student has just returned from a mammoth 8 weeks on the road, first training with an elite squad in Brisbane, then taking out silver and bronze medals at the Junior Nationals in Perth, and finally the primary school's titles in Melbourne. Earlier this year, Crystal won the open section at the Hunters Regional titles, beating all high school age contenders. Today she was presented with the Champion of Champions trophy, her sights firmly set on being selected in the Olympic squad.
That's all I've wanted in life, to be in the Olympic 2000.
That's because they need the signal. Police told them last week. Yeah, they hushed them up. I can't understand how the light.
Brigades rushed to the abandoned building at Carrington at about 4 o'clock. While little more than a shell, the historic structure has been a target for numerous deliberately lit fires, this one presenting firefighters with the danger of a roof collapse.
There's not much left there. It's some asbestos cement sheeting, but most of it's deteriorated to a state now where it's just open to the weather, and it is in a dangerous situation.
Water was directed onto the blaze from above, while firefighters tackling flames in the walls below were careful to minimise the risk of being hit by falling debris. Built in 1877, the building housed equipment used to run hydraulically operated cranes on the waterfront. Investigations into the fire are continuing. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Back now.
Right, thanks, Weather, thanks.
It was a storm like no other. Those who experienced that night 20 years ago will remember emerging from their homes to check for damage, then venturing out to see the destruction unleashed by the cyclonic wind. Buildings and trees were dashed to the ground, power was out and huge seas swept the coast. Almost unbelievably, the giant Norwegian bulk carrier Signa, waiting off the port of Newcastle, was driven ashore by the gale.
Now she'll never make Newcastle. She lies, broken-backed, beyond all hope of salvage, a mere 100 yards off the shore. It looks close enough to walk aboard, but anybody trying that boiling surf would quickly find it otherwise.
NBN newsman Murray Masterton reported from the scene. Even then, his words hauntingly prophetic.
The weather here on Stockton Beach is still so bad that it's impossible for anybody to assess the damage to the ship. They already know that it's far beyond any hope of salvage. She'll never be pulled off there.
You could see the boat bending and breaking. It was getting corrugations down the side, and it was digging a hole in the stern, and she was literally breaking in two. At that stage, there was no chance that this boat was ever going to get towed off under those conditions. The sea was so bad. So
Owen Griffiths was a senior constable in the Newcastle Water Police and among the first rescuers on the scene. The Cygna's 30 crew members, wet, frightened and covered in oil, were safely airlifted from the wreck by an RAAF helicopter. Soon after the Cygna ran aground, hundreds of people trekked through the sand dunes to get a look at a modern-day shipwreck. Now, 20 years on and succumbing to the elements, the Cygna still stands as a reminder to the more than 50 recorded shipwrecks along Stockton Beach.
Well, the Cygna saga has taken another very dramatic turn this morning when the ship actually broke in two.
Months after it ran aground, the bow section of the ship was successfully salvaged and later moored in Port Stephens for some time.
And then everybody was expected the back half to come. But it just seemed it was a comedy of events where things went wrong each time. They got it out off the beach 3 times, and cables broke, and the sea got up, and all those things happened, and it ended up, I think they just ran out of money. They just couldn't go any further.
A dispute over towing rates demanded by Australian tug crews finally sunk the plans of a Japanese salvage company to recover the stern.
And it's always sad to see something up on the beach there rotting, and knowing how much value was in that part of the ship. I mean, that's the most expensive part of the ship, and there it is just rotting.
Air trapped by the constant surge of swell under the wreck's rusted deck wheezes like the ship's dying breath. Even on quiet days, currents rip around the Cygna's barnacle-encrusted hull, sinking it further into the sand. Jagged steel is gradually dissolving and the superstructure collapsing in on itself. Little by little, the once proud ship disappearing into the sea that destroyed it.
Children at Beresfield Primary School were astonished to see their favourite character behind bars. It wasn't that Big Dog was in trouble, just that he had become lost and the council's dog control officer had found him. Luckily for Miss Kim and Big Dog, he is registered. Newcastle Lord Mayor John McNaughton was at the school to promote his council's aggressive push for dog registration. The campaign has seen an extra 1,300 dogs registered in the city in the past year. But there are still unregistered animals in all council areas, and owners face a costly fine if caught. Jason Neuenhoff, NBN News.
A According to the Education Department, the process of learning should not be confined to the classroom.
Education just doesn't start when a child walks into the school, nor does it end when the child leaves the school. I think education is a lifelong process, and school is part of that.
The department wants schools to adopt a homework policy, recommending up to 2 hours a week for kindergarten students, more than 8 for those in senior high years.
We would see homework reinforcing that partnership between parents and teachers, between the home and the school, if you like.
The move has angered the Hunters Teachers Federation. Spokesperson Claire Shanahan today said the policy did not help meet the needs of students who should not be blamed or made to pay for a lack of resources. She claimed it's unfair to form a general policy without considering the different home lives of all students. Meanwhile, the Education Department concedes if adopted, the scheme would be impossible to police. Students, parents and teachers have until the end of June to comment.
And also express any concerns they may have, so that when the final decision is being made, the people of Hunter have had an opportunity to contribute to that.
It's a classic fairy tale, a beautiful girl under a curse who's doomed to die on her 16th birthday.
Fortunately, there is a balance in a good fairy, as in all good fairy tales, who says no, she will not die, she will sleep for a certain amount of time until a young man will kiss her and bring her back to life, and that young man will be the love of her life.
In July, Sleeping Beauty will be staged at the Civic by the Queensland Ballet Company. The first time in many years audiences have been able to see a full-length, although reworked ballet.
We've reduced it down to 2 hours, but maintaining all the most important elements of both the music and the choreography.
Well-known local ballerina Marilyn Jones has helped out with the choreography, and there'll be auditions for around 20 talented young dancers.
They are taught the roles, which are dancing roles and acting roles. So it's I think a great experience for the young people.
And does it survive the happy ending test?
Absolutely happy ending, yes. Happy ever after, which is important. That's what we all want from life, isn't it?
The school musical spectacular was a triumph in every sense of the word, with 2,370 performers giving everything they had to the finale to 9 months of planning and hard work. $14,500 people packed the audiences over the past 3 nights, and some of the performers travelled from as far as Scone and Taree for countless rehearsals as well as the 4 performances. But the show's producer, John Deacon, says future productions are in doubt because of a lack of sponsorship. He said that while the costumes were provided by organisers and performers, along with their time, the lighting, sound and staging cost $75,000, an amount not covered fully by ticket sales. But if enthusiasm counts for anything, there will be a 3rd Starstruck next year. Performing arts is part of the school curriculum, and with talent like this available, someone must come to the party. Life Skills Days are a long tradition at the Boban Public School, idyllically situated as it is at the foot of the hills to the northwest of Wingham.
We try to have at least 2 a year. They're really fun days. Parents love to get involved, teaching children all the different skills that they have. They're always a great success.
The normal textbooks are put aside and parents and other community members join in with drawing and painting, candle making, gardening, pottery, sports and one any youngster would revel in, mud brick making and laying. It all goes to prove that small schools are like large families.
I've done pottery and I made a curled basket and I'll use it for a pot plant or something at home.
The motto at the school is good teaching, real learning. And no one can deny that that was the aim and the achievement at Boban today. The bridge will be closed from Tuesday until Thursday so that urgent work can be carried out. All traffic will be diverted along a 24-kilometre bypass through Lansdowne. This includes 4 railway level crossings and single-lane bridge controlled by traffic signals. In some areas, the speed limit will be reduced to 60 kilometres an hour.
The results of a year's engineering planning and community consultation were tabled by the Roads and Traffic Authority this afternoon. A decision on the vital link to the national road network was awaited anxiously by homeowners who believed they were directly in its path, and local government and industry heads waiting to plan the future of the rapidly expanding region around the road. The freeway extension leaves the F3 west of Newcastle, skirting around the tiny village of Seahampton. A spokesperson for the Residents Action Group says locals are breathing a sigh of relief. However, a number of property acquisitions will be necessary along the 40-kilometre strip, and about 10 homes may be lost further to the north.
It's not possible to construct a major road of this nature without adverse effects, but the main intention through the course of the planning has been to endeavour to avoid a lot of the areas where there'd be negative impacts.
The road will traverse the rugged Sugarloaf Range, cross flood-prone and farming land, and thread its way between the lower hunter towns of Curry and Hedengreta. Flyovers, bridges and tunnels are likely to be provided at traffic junctions with existing roads. The link swings close to Greta before merging with the New England Highway at Branxton near Maitland. An environmental impact statement on the $230 million job is expected later this year, and a decision on whether it will go ahead will be made early next year. With federal funding, the link will take 6 years to build and should serve traffic needs into the next 30 years.